Hello everyone. In this video I want to show you some experimentation I did with gameticks. So the reason I did this is because I wanted to make this in survival. So something that turns this one on one gametick, then this is second, third gametick, fourth gametick, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then just repeats itself. Now I thought that I could do this easily in survival using this, because a piston extends in 3 gameticks. Repeaters take 2 gameticks each, and therefore this one should turn on first, then this one, then this one, then this one, and so on. So, but when I did this, as you can see, this one will turn on first correctly, but then afterwards this one and this one turn on at the same time, also this one and this one, and so on. And what's even stranger is that it does work if I put a lever right here. So as you can see, I power this. This one turns on after 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 5 ticks, 6 ticks, 7 ticks, 8 ticks. So I decided to investigate, and I made a modification to Minecraft so that the ticks are 1 per second instead of 20 per second. And a huge thanks to a Reddit user. I'll link that in the description. Okay, so what I did here is I put on some armor stands all over the place, right here, just to detect when something sees power. So as you can see here, you can see before repeater shall power at 146 ticks, so that's actually 0 because this sets it to 0. And then both repeater and after repeater saw 1 ticks. So from this it looks like a repeater has a 1 tick delay. Something else I noticed is that if you do this really fast, so if you turn it on and off in the same gametick, so you get 0 tick pulse, then the repeater still turns on, and it stays on for 2 gameticks, which is normal because 1 resting tick is 2 gameticks. But it also activates after 1 gametick, which is not what I expected. Now, as you noticed, it was quite spammy. So if you just remove these redstone blocks, then it will only output once, as you can see here. Okay, so I've made an area further up because this is just my own testing, and this is a bit clearer. So we already saw this. This will see power at 1 tick, and it stays on for 2 ticks. No longer shows that. But right here we have a repeater, and after the repeater it gets set to 0. So let's just give this 0 tick pulse. So this will be 2 tick pulse. And as you can see, it saw power at 0 ticks, of course, here. But here it saw power at 2 ticks. So if a repeater powers another repeater, that second repeater only activates after 2 gameticks and not 1 gametick. I also tested this for buttons, and you can see 1 gametick and 1 gametick, and actually everything activates after 1 gametick. Except that I ran over it too fast, meaning that it got reset to 0, then that one saw power. So if you walk over it once more, you can see it's 1 tick. So it set to 0 ticks twice, but that's just because I walked over it too fast. So as you can see, it all takes 1 tick. Now something else that you probably know is that this takes 1.5 seconds to it gives power for 1.5 seconds when pressed. This one for 1 second, and all these also for 1 second. So actually, no, these ones for 10 ticks. So if you step on and then step off, you can see on the right it counts the ticks, and at 9 it should go back, and it doesn't. Okay, actually these two stay powered for 20 gameticks, and these two stay powered for 10 gameticks. But what they do have in common is that if you step on it and you step off at 8 game ticks, it will unpower at 9 game ticks, since it gets set to 0. So as you see, it on the right you could see at 9 game ticks it depowered. But if you stay on for it for a little bit longer, say for 10 game ticks, and then get off, it will actually stay powered for twice as long. So it basically will, depending on how long you stand on it, it can depower instantly after you walk off, or it can take 9 game ticks. Okay, now I also tested it with a torch. That's 1 game tick. And this is also 1 game tick. Then tripwire, same thing, 1 game tick, except tripwire itself also takes 1 game tick to activate. So if an entity would be in here, it takes 1 game tick to actually turn on, so this one gets power. Then because the repeater, it takes 1 more game tick. Then I tested it with torches. So if you power this, so this one actually keeps spamming anyway. So torch also does take 1 game tick. So with a repeater, as you can see, off repeater saw power at 3 ticks, and rest and torch saw no power at 5 ticks. So with a repeater, this also works as expected. But with either a lever, so if we turn it on for 1 game tick, it needs to be on for a game tick, then it does turn on after a game tick. And also with the tripwire hooks, they work the same. So tripwire hooks is basically the same as a lever in that respect. Okay, there were some issues with entities not being detected, but let's get on with the comparators. So if we give them a 1 tick pulse, then they do not turn on. If you give them a 2 tick pulse, then you can see they get turned on after 1 tick. So they're a bit like repeaters, it seems, except with a 0 tick or a 1 tick pulse they do not turn on. Okay, so with a repeater, you see that F repeater saw power at 1 tick, and then F comparator at 3 ticks. So that's as expected, just like a repeater. Then with a comparator first, and then a repeater. So F comparator at after 1 tick, and F repeater after 3 ticks. Okay. Now something else I did is test the comparator output from a tile entity. So let's just turn this on. Let's set the ticks to 0 and puts an item in here. And as you can see, it takes 2 ticks for the comparator to see the item. And actually that stays spamming because it's not 15 strength, signal strength. Then after repeaters have power at 4 ticks. So this takes 2 ticks, and this also takes 2 ticks. This just resets the item. This is something that most of you probably already know, but this simple clock, I never knew why it seemed to not work, since this one never seemed to depower, which is actually really logical because it doesn't depower, since this one stayed at signal strength 2, so this is 1, this is 0. Since it's in subtract mode, so it's actually logical that it doesn't work. I just never knew that, so I'm tested it here. Okay, so pistons. This is a sticky piston. This is a normal piston. Yes. There was another issue with entities not being detected, so I just teleported away and back. I think that's fixed in 1.8.6 anyway, but this is 1.8. So pistons, if we power it, of course it gets set at 0, then you'll see after 3 ticks it sees power. Now if we get this 0 tick pulse, actually this is a 1 tick pulse, 1 game tick pulse, then it sees power at after 2 ticks. and if you give this a 0 tick, you can see nothing happens. Then if you try to give it a 2 tick, so this, and reflect now, you can see this works the same, except it now powers at after 3 ticks, but the block still stays right there. Now for the normal piston, if we extend it normally, you can see after 3 ticks, of course, we need to replace the redstone block now. If you give it a 1 tick pulse, it actually still does 3 ticks, since it doesn't retract it, so some other stuff is happening. So this will always do 3 game ticks. Now with a repeater, of course with a repeater you can only give a 2 game tick pulse or more. So yeah, this is as expected, so 3 game ticks. And if we give it a pulse, this block stays here, and it's after 3 ticks. So that's as expected, since that's also happened with the lever. You did probably notice that it was really glitchy. That's just because the way I made the mod. It works, but it's not as good as Panda's mod, which isn't public yet. So let's hope it gets public soon. Yeah, so with a comparator. So same thing. This 1 redstone tick pulse, so 2 game ticks, and after 3 ticks it sees it. Then the last thing I want to show is what happens here. So if we power this, this will see power after 3 ticks as expected, and this one after 4 ticks, and this one after 6. So basically a piston extending is pretty much the same as manually placing a redstone block, which means that this takes only 1 game tick to extend. Now if we would use a 1 game tick pulse, this takes 2 ticks, and this 3, and this 5. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I tested for. So let's go back to what I made. So back here, well, first this actually, I already showed it. This works, since this one turns on first now, and then this one, then this one, then this one. Broke it, like this. Yeah, so this works, but only with a lever. It doesn't work with redstone dust, like so. Except I broke it anyway. So let's turn this off. Yes. So this works, but when we attach a clock to it, it no longer works, because this still takes 3 ticks to extend, but this takes 2 ticks, and then this takes 1 tick. So basically after 4 ticks there's power here, and after also 4 ticks there's power here. So then they go together. So that's not what we want. So I made this. Let's quickly stop it. Because actually what I wanted was it in this figure anyway, so just 1 block apart and 8 of them, which would fire every game tick. So first game tick, second game tick, and so on. So at the 8th game tick here, and then at the 9th game tick here, and it repeats. So I made this simple way to start this clock. It takes 20 game ticks, since this needs to unpower, because we want this clock to first stop if it would for some reason break. And after then this unpowers, 0 power, this gives a 1 game tick, 1 redstone tick pulse, and this will extend it to a 4 redstone tick. So this actually goes back, so it retracts the redstone block. But as you can see, it works perfectly. So 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3. So this is all working perfectly. And this is probably what I will be using. Okay, so this works for what I want. This will power in my case, dispenser every game tick, and a different one every game tick, which is exactly what I wanted. One thing to note is that this, of course, since it uses this redstone block, it doesn't work if you put repeaters here, because as you will see, the repeaters turn on at the same time. So they already do not turn off in the same order, but that doesn't matter for me. But as you can see here, this one turns on, then these two turn on, then these two turn on. So this is not what I want, so using repeaters after it is not possible. It's probably possible to do something with pistons to make it work, but you can't easily take a piston and put it here with a redstone block. Let's keep the redstone here, because this will extend but immediately turn back, retract. So that's not working. Then there's probably ways to fix that using another piston, pushing it back or something like that, but it's not needed for what I wanted it to do. So yeah, glitchy. Okay, so some final thoughts. What I did find is that a what's it called? Redstone lamp. If you power it, it does power instantly after it sees it. But if you depower it, it actually takes 2 or 3 game ticks to turn off. I think it was 3 game ticks. So I tried to use it for detecting when something gets power, but it wasn't really useful. But things like fences or trapdoors, they instantly see when there's power. So if we just take a redstone block again, and see, it takes of course a little bit, but it's actually in the same game tick that it is placed. It sees when it gets powered and gets unpowered. And something else I found, which has really nothing to do with the tick speed mod, but I found doing it anyway, is that for some reason this bot powers this piston, but doesn't bot power these pistons. So if you have pistons here, they don't get powered, even though it's the redstone diagonally powers it, and the piston here will get bot powered. So not sure what's up with that, but it doesn't work. Same thing here. Well, not same thing, but also some weird things going on. So if you have redstone here, it actually unpowers this, or powers it, I guess. But right now it's not powered, and updating it doesn't work anything. And I found it using this. So if you have a redstone block here, it actually doesn't extend the piston. Doesn't matter if you update it, but if you put redstone dust here, it does extend it for some reason. And as you can see, if you place it right now, it will extend because there's 2 redstone dust. And I went on the Skycraft server, and they actually showed me that this is basically the same thing. If you place a piston here, then it doesn't get powered. But if you place a redstone dust here, it does get powered. So I guess for some reason this redstone dust doesn't go from this side to this side, but only from the middle to this side. When there's a redstone dust here, it does go all the way, I think, but I'm not sure. I did submit those to the bug tracker, but apparently they got closed because they thought they were a dupe of the quasi-connectivity bug, which I don't think they are. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.